If your life is falling apart right now, if the job you worked so hard for suddenly feels meaningless, if relationships you thought would last forever are quietly breaking down, and if you wake up every day feeling like a stranger inside your own story, I want you to stop and listen carefully. And the more you live inside that mask, the more disconnected you become from the parts of yourself you had to hide just to fit in. The anger you were told was too much. The sensitivity you were told was weakness. The dreams you were told were unrealistic. The desires you were told were selfish. All of it doesn't disappear. It gets pushed down into what Jung called the shadow. And the shadow does not stay silent forever. At first, life feels stable, predictable, controlled. You know who you are supposed to be, and you perform it well. But slowly, the pressure builds. You start feeling tired for no reason. Things that once motivated you feel empty. Success doesn't feel like success anymore. Relationships start feeling forced. You start questioning everything, even things you used to believe deeply. And then something breaks. Sometimes it is external. A job loss. A breakup. A betrayal. A failure. Sometimes it is internal. A sudden loss of meaning. Emotional numbness. Anxiety. A sense that you can no longer continue living the way you were living. And this is where most people misunderstand what is happening. They think they are falling apart. But psychologically, something else is happening. The structure that held your false self together is collapsing. Because the psyche can no longer support a life that is not aligned with who you really are. Jung described this stage as a kind of inner dissolution. A breakdown of identity that feels like chaos, but is actually a transition. Imagine a forest that has grown too dense, too controlled, too artificial. A fire passes through it and destroys everything that was old, dry, and no longer alive. From a distance, it looks like devastation. But what comes after is not emptiness. It is renewal. New growth. Stronger roots. A more natural balance. This is what is happening inside you during this stage. Your psyche is not punishing you. It is removing what you are no longer meant to carry. But in the moment, it does not feel like healing. It feels like loss. One of the most painful parts of this process is that you start losing connection to the identity you once trusted. The version of you that used to get things done no longer works the same way. The goals you once chased no longer excite you. Even your own reflection can start to feel unfamiliar. And this creates fear. Because the mind wants stability. It wants a clear sense of who you are. But what happens here is that your old identity is dissolving faster than a new one has formed. So you are left in between. No longer who you were. Not yet who you are becoming. Jung saw this in many of his patients. People who appeared successful on the outside but were collapsing internally because they had outgrown their constructed identity. He realized something important. Sometimes people do not break down because they are weak. They break down because they are changing. And change at this level is not comfortable. It strips away everything that is not real. That includes roles you have played for years. Expectations you have carried for others. Versions of yourself you created just to be accepted. And when those things start falling away, there is often confusion. You might ask yourself, why am I like this now? But a better question is, what in me can no longer survive this old life? Because what feels like destruction is often just truth rising to the surface. There is also something deeper happening during this stage that many people do not recognize. As the persona weakens, the unconscious becomes louder. Emotions you buried start returning. Memories you avoided start resurfacing. Old pain you thought you had moved past comes back without warning. This is not regression. This is material that was never fully processed now demanding attention. The psyche does not forget what it has buried. It only waits for a moment when you are strong enough to face it. And when the old identity weakens, that moment arrives. This is why people often feel overwhelmed during this phase. Not because they are going backwards, but because they are finally seeing what was always underneath the surface. And here is something important to understand. Nothing that is happening to you is random. There is a pattern in this process. First comes stability built on adaptation. Then comes tension between who you are and who you are pretending to be. Then comes breakdown when the gap becomes too large. And finally comes the possibility of rebuilding from something more real. But before rebuilding happens, there is a phase most people struggle with the most. The dark night. This is not just sadness. It is not just stress. It is not just emotional burnout. It is the collapse of meaning itself. Things you once believed in stop making sense. Things you once relied on stop feeling reliable. Even your sense of direction becomes unclear. It can feel like life is not just changing, but losing its structure entirely. But Jung and other thinkers understood this differently. They saw it as a necessary stripping away of illusion. Because if your identity was built on false foundations, it cannot be repaired. It has to be rebuilt from truth. And truth often begins in discomfort. There is a specific point in this process where people feel like they are getting worse. They feel more emotional, more sensitive, more reactive, more uncertain. But what is actually happening is that the inner layers that were suppressed are becoming conscious. You are no longer able to ignore what you used to ignore. And that feels like instability. But it is actually awareness increasing. There are signs that you are in this process right now, even if you do not realize it. You may have lost interest in things that used to define you. Not because you are lazy, but because those things no longer represent who you are becoming. You may feel disconnected from people you used to feel close to. Not because something is wrong with them, but because your internal state is changing faster than your external environment. You may feel emotional waves that seem to come without reason. But these are often parts of you that were never fully expressed finally moving into awareness. And you may feel a strong pull towards solitude. Not as avoidance, but as a need for clarity. Because something inside you is trying to reorganize itself. And it cannot do that in noise. What comes after this stage is not a return to your old life. It is the formation of a new one. Not built on performance, but on alignment. Not built on approval, but on authenticity. Not built on fear, but on awareness. You do not go back to who you were before this process. You become someone who could not exist without going through it. So if your life feels like it is falling apart right now, do not rush to fix everything immediately. Do not assume something has gone wrong just because things feel unstable. Sometimes stability is not the goal. Sometimes transformation is. And transformation always begins where comfort ends. What is breaking in your life may not be your failure. It may be your old self letting go. And what feels like an ending might actually be the beginning of something you have not yet learned how to recognize.